you guys know that I have this accountability partner that I met years ago at Darren Hardy High Performance Forum. I sent him, he's a real estate developer. So he builds, like, companies hire him to find land and build whatever project they want built on it. And that's what he does. And so he's a huge checklist guy. And so I wrote the National Checklist Day thing, and he sent this, forwarded it to everybody that works for him on his team. He said, "This day is bigger for me than Christmas." And then he forwarded it to me and sent to my team. I just think it's funny. I didn't know he was going to send that to me because he's included. He reads my Friday Focus every week. And don't that. That was the whole point. If you read the Focus, it talks about all the different checklists that we did. And there's a story about how we had the first the first checklist was created here by Lori, my wife, when she submitted a VA loan. We hadn't done any VA loans. It was like 2006 or 7. And Lori had just started working here, and we had originated a VA loan. I can't remember who originated, if it was me or if it was Giuseppe, and nobody had ever processed one. And Lori's like, "Well, I guess I'll do it." And we're running late. We had to rush it. And back then, Fairway didn't have their Ginnie approvals. So the Ginnie Mae approvals. So we couldn't underwrite FHA or VA. We had to submit it to the investor to get it underwritten. And this is at a time when, I don't know, Fairway was probably a $3 or $4 billion company, but they couldn't underwrite their own government loans. And it's kind of weird. And now that I think about it, and but we got a rush underwrite on this file, and it came back because we were such short notice. And it came back with 27 conditions or something. It was stupid. It was like fucking disaster. And Steve Jacobson, the CEO of the company, scheduled a company-wide conference call to talk about how we can't rush files if they're not ready to be submitted. And Lori's like, "Man, if he says my name, I'm quitting." And he never did say who submitted the rush. But what Lori did at that moment is that she took out that condition, the list of those conditions, and she built the first VA submission checklist that we ever used. And it was the beginning of us doing that. And if you read this is such a great story. And the book that I reference in there, the Checklist Manifesto, is, this book was written in 2009. And when we really got into it, that book and the E-Myth Revisited, Michael Gerber's book about the subtitle of that book is Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And it's the same thing, is that everything gets more and more complex. We live in a much more complex world. And if you don't know, you all know how complex doing a mortgage is, right? Like, it's, especially if you're new and you're doing this for the first time, like, there's a million moving parts. And if you get one of them wrong, it's like I wrote in there, it's like a mortgage is like a house of cards. It's like, it's like building a house out of playing cards. And you could get up to the 52nd card. And if one thing changes in there that wasn't supposed to change, the whole thing can come crashing down. If you haven't experienced it yet, you will. And I'm sure most of you have experienced it at one level or another. And the whole idea behind a checklist is to not have this happen to you. There isn't any reason why you can't have perfect file submissions every single time if you just take the time to follow that checklist. And so that's the reason that we have all of those. We have the turnover checklists and Encompass. All of these things are built because, well, I don't have to explain this. At the end of the day, you don't want anything to slow down your file, right? And you don't want to create an experience. Sounds like Jessica was maybe potentially having to deal with, where you told somebody they can do something and now they can't do it. It's like the worst feeling ever, because it's your word, it's your reputation, it's the client, it's the partner, it's the real estate agent, it's all these things. There's so much hanging in the balance. That's the value of following these checklists and using them to create that kind of experience for your clients. But I'm going to switch gears on it a little bit. And because in Ninja Selling, so much of what we talk about here about how to do this business and a daily routine, a morning routine, what are you coming to work to? So in Ninja Selling, they talk about what is the Ninja 9, the 5 daily habits, right? Your 5 daily habits in the Ninja 9 are: success habit number 1, start with your daily gratitudes. I mean, I have a journal now and there's 3 things I have to write in there, 3 things every morning. It's what that I'm grateful for. Success habit number 2 is show up and don't open your email first. Stay on your agenda. Because what happens when you open your email, you're suddenly on someone else's agenda. Distractions destroy excellence. Resist the temptation. Do your first 5 daily habits before opening your email. Those emails can wait 15 minutes. I've adopted this in the morning now because it's a really dangerous thing. The first thing you do is you look at your phone. I don't sleep with my phone in my room. It sleeps. I have an alarm clock because I don't want to ever grab that phone in the middle of the night. And I would just grab it and look to see if I got anything, and then I'd be gone. And, but I did have a bad habit of always checking my email when I first woke up in the morning. And if there was something there, well, now everything else that I want to do this morning, which is, I want to write my journal. I want to write my affirmations. I want to, all of that is a distraction, right? So it's, if you don't have it, the point of this is that if you don't have a checklist like this that you're going through, and it doesn't have to be written down, although mine is, like I've shared that with people before, of all the things that I know I want to do every morning. I don't look at that checklist every day because I don't have to. It's all the same stuff, but at least initially it is. Success habit number 3, write 2 personal notes. If you wrote 2 personal notes a day, 10 a week, 520 a year, this is an amazing success habit to get into, because it's and actually in that podcast I mentioned with Jesse Itzer, it's one of the things that he committed to doing, where he and Tim Brahim brings up that 2 personal notes a day. And it's because people can feel the energy of a handwritten note over the lack of energy it takes to hit send on an email. When you take the time to handwrite a note, address an envelope, put a stamp on it, and put it in a mailbox somewhere so that it shows up at somebody's house, they can feel that energy. That's one of the things that he talks about. It's like, it's a really good point. Such a simple habit to get into, right? How simple could that be? And I'll pay for the stationery and the postage for you to do it. So you have no reason not to include this in your daily success habits. So writing 2 personal notes. Success habit number 4 is focus on your hot list every day and focus on your warm list every day. That's the ninja, those are the success habits. And then the 4 weekly habits are, having 10 conversations a day, scheduling 2 live appointments a day, and then updating your database on a consistent basis. So a checklist isn't just to do like a task. A checklist can be built for especially in an environment like the one that we're in, your daily routine is going to dictate so much about how we get through this, how we navigate through the next few months, however long it's going to be before we see a turnaround either in the markets or in the real estate market or in the interest rate market or both. Because I don't know when this is I don't know exactly when this is turning around, and anybody who's telling you they know is lying, and they're just making it up. If they really knew, they'd be doing something else for a living. I know I would, and I'd be just parking all my money somewhere. It's like, oh, I'm going to capitalize on this event. So don't discount the fact that you should put some thought into a daily routine checklist that said, okay, here's how I'm going to do this every day, and this is what it's going to look like. There's so much value in writing down what you want to do in that morning deal. And that's where I learned that from the compound effect, what my daily routine was going to be. And that's just had such a huge positive impact on my life and what I do every single day. Yesterday, I couldn't sleep very well night before last, and I did something that I haven't done because I know I do at times feel like a robot because I'm so automatic about getting up when the alarm goes off. But yesterday morning when that alarm went off, I was like, I'm not going to the gym. I turn off the alarm and I turn back over because I didn't sleep at all. And it usually doesn't ever happen to me, but it happened to me yesterday. And then all day, all I could think about is like going, man, I'm all out of my routine. I'm all out of sync. I don't feel good. That was so dumb. I'm not going to do that because I didn't get nearly as much water as I would normally get. I didn't sit in my sauna. I didn't do all the things that really calibrate the rest of my day and set me up for success throughout the rest of the day. And it's such a big deal. So I was back on it this morning. The alarm went off. I was up, drank all the water that I wanted to drink, went to the gym, did all the things that I want to do, journaling and all the things that I read and affirmations. And I feel 100 times better today. So don't discount the value of all of that stuff because it makes a huge difference. And so that's what you need to do. You need to create a check. What I challenge you all to do is create a checklist for what do I want success to look like? So many of you talk about, yeah, I'm going to start this routine. I want to do this in the morning and I've been getting up, and yeah, it's not that complicated. Just write it down and just say, this is how I want to live my life. And you can start living your life that way anytime you decide to. You don't have to be at the whim of whatever you did the night before. You can change all of this. So don't discount the importance of that. So I'm going to share is a quick story. So Tim, we did this call yesterday and people were sharing different things that they're challenged with and everything else. And what he talked about, I just want to just share the quote. What he talked about was the two biggest challenging markets that he experienced when he was originating. He got in the business, I think in 92, and from 1993 to 1994, and he had just started in the business. Interest rates shot up. I think it was 92. Anyway, interest rates shot up from 93 to the end of 94, 3%. They went from in the 6s to the 9s, right? And then when I first got in the business, was this the second time that he experienced this, rates were in the 6s and they got to 8.5. And during those two markets, he's in California, he's in Southern California. So I think it was maybe a little more exaggerated because of price points, the average price of a home in Southern California. But what he talked about was the two things that he mastered during those times. The first one was he mastered during the first event, it was mastering database management. And knowing that he said, I'm going to my database is going to be my wealth, and where everything's going to center on the value of the information in that database and whether or not I'm using it to create as much opportunity for me and for my clients as I possibly can. And I didn't know him, or I didn't ever even hear of Tim Braheem until the early 2000s when I started to go to Todd Duncan events. But that was one of the reasons that I kept wanting to. Every company that I worked at before I started this company, nobody had a database or a CRM of any kind. I don't even know if they called them CRMs then. And it was we started the company in July of 2000, and August 6th of 2000 is when I turned to Acton and imported all the names that I had into my database. I know it was August 6th because that was the creation date of a whole bunch of the records that were in there. And so we've done that for you here. You have the framework for a database. And if you're not going to take the time to invest in this, you're just shortchanging your career, because the information that in that database, if everything in that database doesn't have something scheduled for something, if every name in there isn't there a future event scheduled for you to do, all you have is a Rolodex, right? Every name in that database should have a future tickler, something, a task for you to do, a follow-up for you to do, or something. Because if it doesn't, isn't it just a Rolodex? It's not doing anything for you. So commit to database management and commit to having that type of approach that, like, man, this is your wealth. That the information in that database and those people, they aren't just records, they're families, and they need your help, and you can help them and benefit yourself in the process. And then the second thing he did in the second slowdown was his development of the perfect loan process, which are the two things that he's really most known for. It's one of the things that he said. He goes, that's really what I'm most known for. I'm known for database management. He's up on stage talking about that at those Duncan events. And then for his perfect loan process, which is what, we've implemented here. You all have a framework for that. And as you continue to grow your businesses and you develop teams, that it will always evolve. It shouldn't be called the perfect loan process. It should be called this really good loan process that we're going to continue to improve every day. But because if it says perfect, it sounds like, well, we're never going to change it. But it's always going to change, and it's always going to evolve. But here was the quote, and this is the reason that I wanted to tell this story. And he said, "This is the kind of market where greatness is created, not 3% refinance markets." And think about that, especially for those of you that went through the 3% refinance market. You didn't get better at this. All you did was you mastered a lot of production, and you were able to follow up with a lot of people, and you locked in a lot of deals, and but you didn't create greatness. He created greatness for his business when he decided he was going to double down and become a master at database management. And when he decided to develop a perfect loan process that he used to market his business going forward and create these amazing outcomes for both of his for both his clients and his referral partners. You have that here. We've provided that for you, and we always want to make it better. So, you know, this is for somebody who's been wildly successful and is very highly respected. And it's been, when somebody like that says, this is the market where greatness is created, as challenging as it is, you have the opportunity to create greatness right here, right now. And when it's, if loans were falling from the sky, it would be easy and there'd be more people getting into the business. We hear about them every day. We hear about the people that are, you know, the Zillow announced 300 layoffs yesterday. We hear about the layoffs and the people that are going to just get out of the business. And that's what that's the law of equilibrium at work. And it's going to be good. So it's just a question of when this market turns around, and are you going to be ready? And are you going to be there? And nothing's going to happen if you're not talking in front of as many people as possible. The idea of the loan officer with the most friends wins will always hold true. So that's the commitment to database management. And that's it. That's all I have for today. Let's have an awesome Friday, and let's go into the weekend strong, everyone.